Militarily Speaking, Episode 6, Military Housing Network with Danielle Adams.
This episode, we talk with Danielle Adams with the Military Housing Network and discuss what Military Housing Network is and what they do for our military communities. And of course, Tom, we're going to play the Military Minute.
Welcome to Militarily Speaking, brought to you by Armed Forces Bank. This is Tom McLean.
And Jodi Vickery.
Hello.
I introduced myself this time.
Hi, Jodi.
Hello.
Welcome, Danielle.
Hi, thank you so much for having me today.
So before we get started, I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent, okay, Danielle? So just...
He does that, Danielle.
I do it, so you got to watch out for me. But, you know, our producer gives us the opportunity to talk a little bit about what's going on in the market, give us some update on some news. And I'm just going to throw out some numbers, which will be a perfect segue, Danielle, to all the great things you do at your organization, okay?
Okay.
So I'm not going to paint a gloom and doom scenario, but here it goes, especially with some of the data today on the housing market and related costs in the housing market. So, you know, at the end of each episode, there's a disclaimer that says, opinions are my own, not Armed Forces Bank. So what I'm about to say is my opinion. So I'm going to tell you what I think, okay?
It's definitely covered under the umbrella of the disclaimer.
We got an inflation rate of, 8.3%, unemployment rates at 3.6% at the end of April. There were 5.9 million people unemployed, but there are 11 million job openings. So I'm trying to do the math on that one. Wages are increasing across the country. We also wonder if they're in lockstep with the rising costs in our everyday lives. So I'm going to take you back in time a little bit, Danielle. The average home value appreciation since 1987 is 4.6%. In 2021, during the pandemic, it was 19%. 2022, 11%. So in the last 2 years, home values have increased 30%. Rent is up 26.5% just this year alone. Mortgage rates for the first time since the early 1980s, the average 30-year fixed rate mortgage went up 2 full percentage points in 4 months for the first time since the 80s, from 3.11% to 5.11%. Homeowners insurance is up nearly 6%. Jodi will remember this when she was in her younger days, probably in her 30s. A gallon of gas in 1978 was 65 cents. The average price is $4.17 today, the highest in U.S. history. That surpassed 2008 when it was $4.11. And the average price of diesel is actually more than double today than it was just in October of 2020. A couple more stats for you. Food prices and grocery bill is up 11% in the last 12 months. So this really is doom and gloom, Danielle. But the final thing I'm going to tell you is that stock market, you know, the retirement plans, all of our military personnel, we worry about those things, whether it's the blended retirement system or whether it's 401ks at companies. The Dow's down about 12%, the S&P is down 16%, and the NASDAQ's down 28%. That's just this year. Granted, we had a nice run during the pandemic, but it's troubling to hear all the costs rising and all the, you know, that's concerning for everybody in this country. And I could throw the words out like bubble and crash and bear market or housing crisis or recession or depression, but
why have it take a gloomy turn,
that'd be too negative, right?
So why go down a dark path?
But I say this, Danielle, as we lead into talking to you and asking you a few questions, that a home purchase is one of the most important decisions people make. Finding a realtor, finding trusted advisors, and it is scary out there. And this podcast may get run in a month or so, and things might be a lot different. This podcast may be listened to in 5 years, and we'll look back on this time and wonder why we didn't buy Apple stock or something. But getting back to what you do for a living and how you take care of our military families, it's great to have you as our guest today from the Military Housing Network.
And I would say, Tom, that when gas was 65 cents a gallon, I think that's still when the guy would come out and take care of that for us. So, you know, I might like those old times.
That sounds like a great time.
Right? Yeah. Clean the windshield.
So is New Jersey the only state where they do that for you now? They have to have an attendant come out.
That's a reason to move to New Jersey, though.
Yeah.
Right?
Especially in the cold.
Yeah, I had to get gas this morning in the rain.
Danielle, thanks for letting me go tangential on you. And now we're going to hit the ground running.
Yes, we hope that that's his only tangent, Danielle. So thank you for bearing with us. He tends to do that. And
I was worried you were going to ask me a heavy math question. And
I know,
there's
right?
a reason I did not major in math.
I know. It's like that problem, like the train leaves the station and drives halfway. And then when did it get there? I don't know. I don't ride trains. I don't know.
And you were making those faces at me, like, when am I going to wrap this
I know. I was trying
up?
to find the power button for your microphone, but I don't know where it's at. So anyway, we digress. So thank you again. Welcome to the show to our listeners. We're excited to have you listening and learning about Military Housing Network. And of course, at the end, we'll share the answer to last time's Military Minute. But I do want to take just a second, Danielle, and introduce you before we start peppering you with great questions. We're honored to have you as our guest today. Danielle Adams is with Military Housing Network. She's on their client care team and has really just a great perspective of what Military Housing Network is all about, why they do what they do for the military community, and we're excited to share that with our audience today. We've also heard through the grapevine, we think, that maybe there's some interesting radio DJ experience in your background, which you can share with us today when you were in Guam. So interesting background, great organization that you represent, and we'd just like to welcome you to the show.
Oh, thank you so much.
And to start with, I'd just love to hear more about your background. Feel free to sprinkle in DJ facts if you'd like. But how did you get started with Military Housing Network in particular?
Sure. Well, as you shared earlier, I'm originally from Guam, and that is actually where my husband and I met. We got married in 2019, and we PCS'd out to Norfolk, Virginia it had to be early of last year, so early 2021. And prior to us moving, and prior to COVID, I have to also offer that disclaimer. I kind of worked just a variety of different jobs, but because my background is in communications with a mass media track, I've kind of just stayed in that realm for a while. Like you mentioned, I was a radio show host. That wasn't even the original job I had signed up for. I was actually their events and promotions manager, and they just asked me to step in to fill in for somebody, and then they liked me, and so they kept me. So,
well, there you go.
So, you just kind of take on any opportunity and see how networking plays into that. I also had owned my own business out there doing, events and promotions. But obviously when COVID hit, that was a different route for everybody. So when my husband and I had PCS'd out to Norfolk, Virginia, I wasn't sure what the COVID situation was like out here. And so I thought my best bet would be to kind of research more into virtual jobs and, maybe explore a remote setting, which was definitely going to be different for me because I was so used to, networking in person with all, with customer service. And so I figured this was going to be very different, but I ended up coming across the application for Mill Housing Network, and the position was on their client care team as a client care specialist. So I went through 2 interview processes and landed the job. I've been with them for a little over a year now and have just absolutely loved every single day of it.
That's excellent. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's never boring. And I still do get that customer service element. It's just, again, taking on a different setting. People can't read my facial expressions over the phone. So I definitely have to, add a little bit of extra oomph to my voice. But overall, it's just been great being on just as being a support provider for our military families.
Outstanding. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes, thank you. And I'm sure PCSing during COVID was a challenge in and of itself. So the new rules of engagement.
Absolutely. It's unlike any other experience.
Danielle, on your website, you've got a great, and we'll put a plug in for Mill Housing Network website quite a bit during this podcast, but there's something called the Ultimate PCS Guide, provides tools and checklists and to-do items for those who are on the move. So can you explain a little bit more to our audience what the Mill Housing Network is and how it helps our service members sort of before, during, and after a move?
Absolutely. So just a little rundown about what Mill Housing Network is. Our team is mainly MILSPO powered. So at the core of it all, we're just like our clients. Our team consists of military spouses and families who have been through a PCS journey, like you mentioned. So we've experienced firsthand the challenges of a PCS, packing, moving, finding housing, last minute changes, you name it. But we work with our clients from beginning to end. So we provide helpful resources and prep for their move, like the PCS, the Ultimate PCS Guide you mentioned. We connect these families with vetted agents and lenders to assist with their home search or home sale, whatever process it is that they need assistance with. And then we also nurture these relationships. So we want to make sure that they feel comfortable working with our partners, and we want to make sure they are taken great care of throughout the whole process up until closing.
It's nice to have that continuity, I suspect, for military family, because that PCS time can be challenging. I know. But can you tell us, so you mentioned the real estate agents and people that you connected with. How does, if you're one of those, how do you get connected into Mill Housing Network so you can help in that regard? And why is that so important to have people that understand that PCS journey be part of that network for you?
Right. We definitely understand how important it is to work with real estate agents and lenders that are great fits for each family when they PCS. And the reason I bring up, great fit, the idea of being a great fit, is the reality is not one specific agent will be the best fit for everybody, especially when you're dealing with different factors, such as different personality types, different needs for each family, and of course, different experience levels for each agent and lender. We actually have an agent services team. Our agent services coordinator interviews potential agents and thoroughly researches their background. So she'll check on things like how well versed they are with VA loans, how many military families they have actually helped, and so on. Now, these agents have either been recommended to us or they've reached out directly to us. So if you are listening, if you are a real estate agent who is interested, you can definitely shoot us an email. That would be at agentservicescoordinator@millhousingnetwork.com. It definitely couldn't hurt to see if you'd be a great addition to our network. Overall, we just aim to work with partners who are full-time vetted agents who truly understand what it means to buy and sell for military families.
And that's a relief too, I think, for a military family. They've got enough going on during this time to know that you've already sort of done the homework and making sure that they're connected with somebody that's trustworthy and reliable and can speak their language, really. So that's fantastic.
Yes.
It's almost like a concierge service, isn't it?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. Danielle, thank you for that answer. How does a military service member begin his or her journey with you? So what are some of the tips that you can provide that will help them make a move more seamless too? And you mentioned the website for realtors, but how do people find you? Because I think Jodi and I are familiar, Jodi especially being a military spouse, she probably gravitates towards websites related to the military spouses and the housing network. So how do people find you?
Well, most of the time we get majority of our inquiries from our online communities. So those would be our Facebook groups or directly from our Mill Housing Network website. That's millhousingnetwork.com. It's definitely a great idea to join some of those Facebook groups that I was talking about. Two that I would recommend at the top of my head are the Military First Time Homebuyers group and the Things I Wish I Knew Before I PCS'd group.
Sounds like a country song.
But definitely, these communities, not only is it's a joint effort among a number of military spouses who have gone through it, but then our team is also, just kind of in the wings, ready to answer any questions that are posted in there. There are a lot of great resources we share in there, free guide downloads. And we also host a PCS show every Wednesday. With that, we cover different topics each week, like tips and tricks to make the PCS process a little easier, whether it's their first move or their 15th. My favorite tip I would share is that it's never too early to start asking questions. Just dip your toes into the PCS pond.
Yep.
Obviously, a lot of us know, especially for those of us like Jodi, you've probably gone through this a number of times. But being in the military lifestyle, one of the biggest struggles with a PCS is being in a subject to change status majority
Yes.
of the time.
Yes, love that.
It can be so frustrating. But again, that's why we're here, is for the support. But dealing with your orders constantly changing or your timeline changing, et cetera, et cetera. So what I would highly recommend is preparing for the aspects you do have control over, such as preparing an emergency fund, setting your packing priorities, and of course, keeping constant communication with the parties you plan to work with and just having a place and plan for them. And if you don't mind, actually, that makes me think about why it's so great about the agents that are in our network, because they remain flexible. They're willing to adapt to these changes purely because they've worked with so many military families and So they are aware of the possibility of those situations. Trust me, there are also real estate agents out there who have said they only want to work with clients who know exactly where they're going. They're only moving within 2 to 3 months or less. So, really chasing that instant gratification complex.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
they want the sure thing, right?
Yeah, they don't want to work for it.
But come on, let's be realistic. The life for military families is so unpredictable. Nothing is ever set in stone. So to guarantee to listeners who are interested in our network, are those types of agents in our network? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Good.
We definitely want partners who are going to be there for our military families, no matter what changes come up.
Good. Well, and you answered a little bit of what I was going to ask next already, just about the resources that are available, but kind of a spin on that. So when you are that family that has orders subject to change, or they have changed, or with COVID, I know a lot of our friends got delayed. And so we're going to move next week. Oh, wait, no, we're not. We're going to move in 90 days. Oh, wait, no, we're going to move in 6 more months. How does Military Housing Network help them? Do they stay connected with the same agent relationship, even if they're going to have their orders, say, change from Norfolk to San Diego Naval Station? How does that process work?
Oh, that's a great question. So my position as a client care specialist is I work very closely between the military family and our partners, whether it be the agent or the lender. So for example, like you said, if somebody's orders changed, I kind of serve as that middleman, because we know, the reality of being a real estate agent is you are working with could be hundreds of clients all at once. And so we kind of take a little bit of that burden off of them to constantly be checking in, saying, hey, when are you coming here? When are you getting here? What do you want? And I have had clients who their orders have changed. And so I kind of deliver the message and I go and find a new agent in their new location. But it's basically just to let them know, don't worry, we're not dropping you. Even though your orders have changed, we are still here to help you however we can and wherever you're going and whenever you're going. We're right there alongside them virtually.
Yes. Well, that would be great. I mean, the stress that comes with those last minute twists and turns, and especially if changing a location, is just crazy. It's unreal. And so you help them bridge that. That's fantastic.
Definitely. And I think one of the worries they have, because I have had clients ask me, can you still help me, even though I'm going somewhere else? And that's the beauty of we have our fingers all over the US. So it's like, yes, we do. We have realtor partners in California. We have realtor partners in Alaska. Where are you going? You name it. Let's roll the dice,
Do they stay with you in that process? So if they're assigned to you, are you the same continuous representative for them?
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
That's great.
That is great.
Great service.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you, remember I started out the podcast with gloom and doom and all these stats about how scary it is out there. But do you stay apprised of the market trends out there? You're at the mercy of the military when it comes to dates for those PCS moves. Jodi talked about it. You talked about it. It could move. And the timing for when someone decides to get with a realtor and potentially buy a home might not be the right thing, but that's just, sometimes it's the luck of the draw, and
gotta live somewhere.
Where you find supply and demand, and what's affordable, what's not, and what fits your family size. And so you want to talk a little bit about how you might talk to some of your clients that way, or talk about some of the trends going on in the market when it comes to real estate in general?
Sure. Well, as we all know, that real estate market is ever changing.
Yeah.
Like you said. Therefore, I am no professional on all those statistics, so I would always defer to our realtor partners and lender partners to provide more of the specifics. However, we do provide our clients with updated market reports when requested, so that way they can explore different areas near wherever their final destination is. And whenever I run those reports, you're absolutely right. It can change within a week.
Yeah.
Same location. So a lot of the times when I do get a client asking, how's the market there? I'll let them know, here's the market report for this current week. But at the end of it all, hands down, it is always best to speak directly with a real estate agent who has their ear to the ground.
Good advice.
Yep, that makes sense, especially if they're local. So are there any other benefits that you'd want to highlight in the time that we have left today for the military family, for the spouse who might be carrying the weight of facilitating and organizing the logistics of the move, things that maybe they might not think of top of mind as a benefit of using Mil Housing Network as a resource?
Well, the biggest benefit of working with us stems back to something I mentioned earlier, the fact that we are also military spouses and military families. So we have that relatability factor. There will always be something new to learn about the military family lifestyle, no matter how long you've been in. So we are just here to provide information, connection, and support however which way we can. On top of that, along with the ever-changing market and ever-changing orders and timelines, you name it, our goal is to keep growing and adjusting as well, because we want to continue being that source, that hub for military families to turn to. For example, we do also provide connections to homeowners insurance providers, home security providers, but I know we don't want to stop there. So we are constantly going to be developing new resources, adding new parties to our network, and of course, refreshing our current partnerships to make sure everyone stays on top of their game and fully services our military families the way we would want them to.
That is all good, all goodness, I think. And maybe even every now and then just an ear for them to bend when they're frustrated by a change in orders. Or
we definitely have had that as well, and yeah. I can sympathize.
Yes. That means something, I think, when people have walked a mile in your shoes. So I know that's a valued part of what you offer. We're just as happy as we could be that you joined us today. You know, Armed Forces Bank has a relationship with Mill Housing Network, and we're proud of that. And we just wanted a chance to share that good story with our audience. And, you know, I think I'd just like to remind them that it's millhousingnetwork.com for the different services and benefits that you've advised of today. And they can go out there and check it out and get engaged with you directly if they find themselves in a PCS situation.
You know, Danielle may not say this herself, but I'm going to say it for her because her company has been recognized over the years for the great successes, right? You've been what, best in real estate. You've been military spouse owned business of the year. You've been social entrepreneur of the year. A lot of good accolades, a lot of good testimonials out there for the great things you do for our military service members and the families. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. I know our team is grateful for the opportunity, and I'm just happy to be part of that family.
So Danielle, if you want to stick with us for just a couple more minutes as we wrap up this episode, because you are part of history, you know.
Here you go again, Danielle. You've been warned.
You're in our 6th episode. So you'll always remember that you're in our 6th episode ever of Militarily Speaking.
Oh, wonderful.
All right. So what do I get for that, right? So last week's Military Minute. Are we ready?
Can't hardly wait.
I'm trying to remember. Let's see. The last time we had a question. Oh, yeah. How long must a Coast Guard vessel be for it to be termed a cutter?
I think we need music here. Suspenseful music.
Do you know the answer to that, by the way, Danielle?
Cue the music.
So the answer,
she's coming back every episode.
I can give this answer, right?
Yes.
Okay. So
that's why it's there.
It's over 65 feet. Who knew?
Yes, I do now. Thanks.
Somebody knows
Thanks
because
so
the answer's out there.
Google knew.
And I learn something new every day.
There you go. See, right?
And we wanted to keep you on the podcast because we're having another Military Minute question for our audience, okay? And it's about Mill Housing Network.
But don't answer.
But don't answer it.
Noted.
Because I already found the answer, so it might leak. How many military families PCS annually? How many military families PCS annually? Chances are, if you go to millhousingnetwork.com, there may be something there that you can find, right?
Well played.
Or just Google it and guess.
Yes. And maybe a range.
So the answer will be next week. I can't wait to give the answer. I kind of want to give it now.
Don't do it.
Okay. Because
that's why I normally do this part, because you can't help yourself.
And you know, the winner gets $50, right? $50. Yes. And we offer
and their charity of their choice.
$50.
Another $50.
So we're excited about that. Again, we talk about how much pride we have in giving money to charities that support our military community. So it's great. Thanks again, Danielle Adams, for spending time with us. Be sure to learn more about Mill Housing Network at, I'm going to say it again, millhousingnetwork.com.
Nobody will walk away from here not knowing the website, millhousingnetwork.com.
And afbank.com. Yes, you're right.
Yes. So all of our listeners, if you enjoyed today's episode, we just invite you to go out to afbank.com and subscribe to the show. Also, make sure to rate us, leave us a comment. You can comment on Tom separately if you're so inclined on your favorite podcast platforms, such as Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
Thanks, Danielle.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Copyright 2022 Armed Forces Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender. All non-Armed Forces Bank owned apps, websites, company names, and product names are trademarks or registered trademarks of their respective owners. Their mention does not imply any affiliation with or endorsement by Armed Forces Bank of them or their products and services. They are merely used as examples of the many available apps, companies, and websites that offer similar services. Before using any app or website, you should carefully review the terms of use, data collection, and privacy policy. Apps may have an initial cost or in-application purchase features. This information is general in nature and is not intended to be legal, tax, or financial advice. Although Armed Forces Bank believes this information to be accurate, it cannot ensure that it could change. Statements or opinions of individuals referenced herein are their own, not Armed Forces Bank. Consult an appropriate professional concerning your specific situation and respective governing bodies for applicable laws, such as IRS.gov for current tax law. Armed Forces Bank, the Armed Forces Bank logo, and the Militarily Speaking logo are registered trademarks of Armed Forces Bank.